Hello and hey everyone, welcome to my channel. So today we'll be doing the most important topics, and we'll be doing the second part of the NCERT, that is the blue one. So the first chapter is sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Sorry, the first chapter is reproduction in organisms, and we'll be dealing with it. So the one thing that is most important in this part is about the organisms like Chlamydomonas, Cladophora, these type of organisms, and budding in Hydra, yeast, and all these examples are very important. So first we'll analyze from which chapter important questions are coming. Okay, so first we'll be doing the previous year questions, and then we'll be moving on to NCERT, and then we can focus like which topic is mostly coming. So the plant parts which consist of two generations, one within the other. 2020 question it is. So plant parts which consist of two generations, one within the other. Okay. The plant parts which consist of two generations, one within the other, is pollen grains inside the anther, germinated pollen grains with two male gametes, seed inside the fruit, embryo sac inside the ovule. See, pollen grains inside the anther. Pollen grains are what? Pollen grains inside the anther. Pollen grains are haploid because the male vegetative and generative cell, they are haploid, right? So yeah, there are two generations. Anther is diploid, of course. Germinated pollen grain with two male gametes. No, it is not. No, because two male gametes are haploid. Seed inside the fruit. Seed is something like diploid. Fruit is also diploid. No. Embryo sac inside the ovule. Embryo sac is nothing but a actually it is a haploid structure only. Inside the ovule is diploid. So I can say first and fourth option are correct. Let's check the answer. Yes, D option is correct. Let's see what's the explanation for it. No explanation, so D is the correct answer. In water hyacinth and water lily, pollination takes place by, again from NEET 2020. Okay, so in water hyacinth and water lily, pollination takes place by. So this is given in NCERT. So these are the plants in which the flowers are exposed to the atmosphere, to the outside environment. So it takes place by water currents and insects. So D option is correct. Water, no, it does not take place through water. It takes place through wind and insects. No water. So in water aquatic plants with emergent flowers, pollination occurs by wind or insects. Example, lotus, water lily, water hyacinth. So lotus, water lily, and water hyacinth. What is the most common type of embryo sac in angiosperms? Actually, it is embryo sac it is talking about. So it is two sequential mitotic divisions, and it is monosporic. I think the option is C. No, the option is B. I did a mistake here. So the correct option is B. Monosporic with three sequential mitotic divisions. Three sequential mitotic divisions, not two. Three sequential mitotic divisions occur. What type of pollination takes place in Vallisneria? Vallisneria, yeah. In Vallisneria, pollination occurs in submerged condition by water. Not submerged, it is epi it is, because flowers have long stalk, emerge above the surface of water, and pollination occurs by insects. No. Emerge above the water surface and pollen is carried by wind. No. So carried by water currents to the female flowers at surface of water. Yes, 4 is D. So in Vallisneria, the female flower reaches the surface of water by the long stalk, and the male flowers or pollen grains are released onto the surface of water. They are carried passively by water currents. Some of them eventually reach the female flower and the stigma. In which one of the following both autogamy and geitonogamy are prevented? Both autogamy and geitonogamy are prevented. It means only xenogamy is taking place. That is possible only in dioecious plants like papaya and date palm. Date palm is nothing but khajur, right? So B, papaya and khajur. Date palm and papaya. So what type of pollination takes place in Vallisneria? So that is, male flowers are carried by water currents to the female flowers at surface. So which is the most common type of embryo sac in angiosperms? So the question where so many of you mistake is common type of embryo sac in angiosperms. So it is what? It is what type? It is tetrasporic or monosporic. It is monosporic. Monosporic means single. It is single with 3 sequential mitotic divisions. Okay. Next, papaya is a what? Dioecious plant. Date palm is also dioecious. That's why autogamy, geitonogamy prevented, xenogamy promoted. So pollen grains can be stored for several years in liquid nitrogen, having the temperature, very common question, minus 196 degree Celsius. So check it out in your NCERT if you have opened it. So you can see that the common question that comes in all type of institute exams, test series, you can find this minus 196 degree Celsius where the pollen grains are preserved. So this is liquid nitrogen. In liquid nitrogen you can store the things. And one more thing, in herbarium or in storing the specimens in museums, 40% formalin is used. That is given in your NCERT in chemistry. So that's the benefit that I am discussing all the 3 subjects and interrelating them. So the 40% formalin is used. Formalin, it is called 40% formaldehyde, is called formalin. Okay, so for storing the specimens in museums and for herbariums, dried, pressed, and this is preserved in formalin, that is 40% formaldehyde solution. Okay, so liquid nitrogen is the thing where we preserve the pollen grains, liquid nitrogen. So in page number 24 it is given. If you'll check, this is page 29, 24 here. Check it out here. Here it is given, that is 96 minus 196 degree liquid nitrogen can be stored. Okay, so if you see, sometimes this is also asked in some cereals such as rice and wheat, pollen grains lose viability within 30 minutes of their release. In some members of Rosaceae, Leguminaceae, Solanaceae, viable for months. Okay, next thing, pollen grains can be stored for several years in liquid nitrogen having a temperature of minus 196 degrees Celsius. Which of the following has proved helpful in preserving pollen as fossils? Which of the following has proved helpful in preserving pollen as fossil? That is sporopollenin. This is the most common question. Sporopollenin. So exine of pollen grain is made up of highly resistant fatty substance called sporopollenin. So actually in this series we'll be going of 2 types, like in human genome project the scientists has done. One is express sequence tags. That is we are encoding the genes, we are knowing the sequence of the genes, sequence of the genome which is expressed, which is forming a protein. So one is express sequence tags, in which all the base pairs are sequenced which are going to express as proteins. Another approach is that blindly just figuring out the base sequence. So similarly we'll be also doing like that. The question that are asked in the previous years, we'll be doing the topic of that question, and then we'll be going to the complete chapter. Which of the following has proved helpful in preserving pollen as fossil? That is sporopollenin. Winged pollen grains are present in Pinus. So Pinus has winged pollen grains. So remember this one, that Pinus has winged pollen grains. So explanation I can give that each pollen grain of Pinus has 2 wing-like structures which enable it to float in air. Of course, every bird, every organism which is flying has two wings, right? Only one wing is not possible to fly. So two wings they have. They float in air with that of wings as an adaptation for dispersal by wind. They are flowing in wind means adaptation for dispersal by wind. Pollen grains of mustard, cycas, and mango are not winged. Mustard, cycas, and mango they are not winged. Only pinus is winged. Pinus can fly. Pinus pollen grains, not pinus. So winged pollen grains are seen in pinus. Functional megaspore in an angiosperm develops into. Functional megaspore in an angiosperm develops into embryo sac. Embryo sac is the correct option. So see, in angiosperm, the functional megaspore is the first cell of female gametophyte. Female gametophyte is ovule. It enlarges and undergoes 3 nuclear mitotic divisions to form embryo sac. So actually, female gametophyte in angiosperms, the functional megaspore is the first cell of female gametophyte. Actually, it is female gametophyte is nothing but we'll be discussing there. Attractants and rewards are required for the entomophily where insects pollination takes place. So entomophily is the most common type of zoophily. Pollination takes place through the agency of insects. Entomophily flowers are brightly colored, secrete nectar to attract visiting insects. Anemophily, wind pollination, hydrophily, water pollination do not require attractants or rewards due to involvement of abiotic pollinating agents. Cleistogamy is self-pollination and closed flowers. So entomophily is the most common type of zoophily where pollination takes place through the agency of insects. Entomophilous flowers are brightly colored and secrete nectar to attract visiting insects. Anemophily, wind pollination, hydrophily, water pollination do not require attractants or rewards to involvement of abiotic pollinating agents. Cleistogamy is self-pollination in closed flowers. Closed flowers, Cleistogamy means open flowers. Okay, flowers which have a single ovule in the ovary and are packed into inflorescence are usually pollinated by. Single ovule in the ovary and are packed into inflorescence are usually pollinated by. Single ovule means wind. Single ovule in the ovary and flowers packed into inflorescence characteristic of wind pollinated flowers. They are non-sticky, okay? They are non-sticky. A dioecious flowering plant prevents both autogamy and gytinogamy. Dioecious plants are those plants in which male flowers and female flowers are born on different plants, therefore they prevent both autogamy and gytinogamy. In majority of angiosperms, egg has a filiform apparatus. There are numerous antipodals. Only 3 antipodals are there. 2 synergids are there. 1 axil is there. 2 synergids, 1 axil form egg apparatus. 3 antipodals are there on the chalazal end, and on the micropyle end egg cell and 2 synergids are there with filiform apparatus. Filiform apparatus are associated with synergids, and central cell is there with 2 polar nuclei. 1 cell, 2 nuclei. That's why it is 7 cell 8 nucleated. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 cell 8 nucleated. So reduction division occurs in the megaspore mother cell. Yes, a small central cell is present in the embryo sac. Small and large. So 13 is C. Okay, small and large. So reduction division occurs in megaspore of mother cell. Megaspore of mother cell. Next question. Megaspore mother cell is a meiosis करते हैं. Pollination in water hyacinth and water lily is brought about the agency of water lily and water hyacinth. See, in 2016 this question came again repeated in 2020. Pollination water hyacinth water lily is brought about the agency of somewhat modulated question. So it is insects or wind or what? It is insect or winged only. So option B. Same. The ovule of an angiosperm is technically equivalent to megasporo. Ovule of an angiosperm is technically equivalent to ovule of angiosperm is technically equivalent to megasporangium. So ovule is nothing but megasporangium. Ovule is technically equivalent to megasporangium. In angiosperms it is integumented. Integuments are there, it is covered, right? Megasporangium. 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 Sporangium. It is going to produce megaspores, right? So which one of the following statements is not true? Pollen grains of many species cause severe allergies. True. Stored pollen in liquid nitrogen can be used in crop breeding programs. Yes. Tapetum helps in the dehiscence of anther. No. Exine pollen grains made up of pollen. Yes. So option C is incorrect. They were asking for not true. The tapetum is the innermost wall layer, microsporangium, that nourishes developing pollen grains. It nourishes developing pollen grains. It do not help. The outer three layers that help in dehiscence only. This one for nourishment. This is a nurse like pennant, like it nourishes the innermost wall layer. This is the innermost wall layer of microsporangium. Microsporangium. It is associated with pollen, right? So that nourishes anther. It is associated with anther. That nourishes developing pollen grains. Which of the following statement is not correct? Pollen germination and pollen tube growth are regulated by chemical components of pollen interacting with those of the pistil. Not correct means pollen germination and pollen tube growth are regulated by chemical components of pollen interacting with those of the pistil. Some reptiles have also been reported as pollinators of some plant species. Correct. Pollen grains of many species can germinate on the stigma of a flower, but only one pollen tube of the same species grows into the style. Wrong. Insects that consume pollen nectar without bringing about pollination are called pollen nectar or nectar robbers. So I think option C. Yeah. So pollen pistil interaction is the group of events that occur from the time of pollen deposition over the stigma to the time of pollen tube entry into the ovule. It is a safety measure to ensure that illegitimate crossing does not occur. Pollen grains of number of plants may settle over a stigma. The pollens belonging to same species would germinate while others fail to do so. But the pollen tube of the compatible pollen will grow through the pollen belonging to the same species would germinate while others fail to do so. But the pollen tube of the compatible will grow through the style to reach the ovule, whereas growth of incompatible pollen will be arrested at stigmatic disc or sometimes in beginning of part of the style. Pollen pistil interaction group of events after the pollen has deposited on the stigma, the time pollen tube entry into the ovule. It is a safety measure to ensure that illegitimate crossing does not occur. Pollen grains of number of plants may settle over a stigma. The pollens belonging to the same species would germinate while others fails to. The pollen tube of the compatible pollen will grow through the style, reach the ovule, where as the growth of incompatible pollens will be arrested at stigmatic disc or sometimes in the beginning part of the style. Proximal end of the filament of stamen is attached to the proximal end will be attached to what? Of stamen will be attached to thalamus or petal. Yeah, thalamus or petal is the proximal part. If I say distal part, so that will be your anther. Filiform apparatus is characteristic feature of synergids. Just now I said, right? Filiform apparatus is a mass of finger-like projections of the wall into the cytoplasm. This present in synergids health cells of the embryo sac in the micropylar region. It guides the pollen tube inside the ovule towards the embryo sac. In angiosperms, microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis. So, in angiosperms, microsporogenesis, megasporogenesis, microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis. Microsporogenesis form both involves male gametes, meiosis, micro and megasporogenesis. So 20 is in angiosperms, microsporogenesis, that is formation of microspores. So pollen grains occur by the meiotic divisions of diploid microspore mother cell or pollen mother cells. Megasporogenesis takes place in anther. Megasporogenesis, the formation of megaspores, occur by meiotic division of diploid megaspore mother cell. Megasporogenesis takes place in the ovule. Megasporogenesis takes place in the ovule. Male gametophyte in angiosperms produce. Male gametophyte in angiosperms produce. Male gametophyte in angiosperms, they produce angiosperms. Male gametophyte, they produce generative cell, vegetative cell, and generative cell will give rise to two male gametes. The two male gametes and a vegetative cell. I think option 3 C is correct. The protoplast of the male gametophyte divides mitotically to produce two unequal cells, a small generative cell and a large vegetative cell. Generative cell divides later into two non-motile male gametes or sperms. Thus, the male gametophyte in the angiosperms produce two sperms and vegetative cell. The vegetative cell later on grows to produce pollen tube. So guys, we'll continue in the next video. If you like this video, hit the like button, share it, and share with your friends, and do not forget to comment, because your one positive comment give me a lot of motivation to do such videos. I will improve my quality of the video and everything, but I need your support first of all. Thank you.